So my life has changed. I think probably for the better. Yeah.
Okay.
I suppose work-life balance is better. So in my current role, well, you see, I changed roles in the middle of the pandemic, so that's a bit of a challenge to compare.
Okay.
But my role for the first year of the pandemic would have been completely online, obviously. Whereas as a development advisor to small food companies, all my meetings would have been off-site before that.
Okay.
So in the client premises or in the Enterprise Ireland offices in Dublin or
Okay.
Galway or wherever. But very rarely would they have been in Donegal where I'm based.
Okay, so big change.
So huge change. And I think the challenge, once we got over the teams and the technological challenges, which weren't that difficult really once you were immersed in it, it was quite easy. For me anyway. But some people did struggle with that and clients didn't particularly like it.
Okay.
So you would, especially in the food sector, which is the one I was in, as I said, they were all in their factories working and producing. So there was kind of a dichotomy for them because they were like, well, we're all on at work. Why aren't you at work? But anyway, so their screen would often be showing pieces of people's shoulders. And so their screen might show one person and then a bit of somebody else. So it was it took a while for people to get used to it.
To adjust. Okay.
But actually, if you have a very structured interviewing process, as you have, and we have a very structured system for talking to clients about their strategy and about their future business plan. If you have a structured way of going, it's actually, Teams is quite effective because everyone knows what the agenda is and we know how we're going through it. So it's not loads of people speaking at the same time. It's very, very systematic.
Very good.
I think sometimes with very large groups, if it's not structured, it can be a bit challenging.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense. And I suppose, how have you been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic in relation to your work-life balance and digital well-being?
I'm very lucky that I live in a house that has an office. And so whilst the hours have definitely got longer, I can close the door. So I have that option, which a lot of people don't have. So I'm very conscious of that. I live in the countryside, so if needs be, and I'm on a call that I'm only listening, I can go for a walk and listen to the call. You know, if I don't need to be very focused or take notes.
Okay.
So that's also a big bonus for me. So I'm in a very lucky position, really. I'm involved in a couple of voluntary groups, and they all went online as well.
Okay.
And at the end of my working day, I actually couldn't go back on the screen in the evenings. So I did notice that I dropped out of a couple of voluntary. You know, I just didn't participate in the meetings. Well, I suppose, I mean, they gave us, like, we all could take our chairs home, or they sent us chairs so that we would all physically be well, you know. I have 2 screens, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but anyway, actually it is a good thing for me because I like the big screen. In year 1 of the pandemic, we did an awful lot of well-being programs.
Okay.
So we would have they had people coming in to do a 20-minute yoga in the morning at 8:30. Now, this was on your own time, but it was still contributing to our well-being. They did some things at lunchtime. Okay. They recorded a lot of the stuff and put it up on our intranet so we could go to it at any stage. Our department managers were always checking in. Okay. To make sure people weren't isolated. I became a department manager in the middle of the pandemic. Okay. Excuse me. So we instigated a Monday morning call to make sure everyone was still feeling good and had got through the weekend or whatever, because it was very tough at the time.
Yes.
If you lived on your own or if you lived only with one other person, I'd say it was tough for some people living in apartments and not having the flexibility of going outside in the country.
Mhm.
So in the very early days, we probably met 4 times a week. So we might have had a hello on a Monday, a coffee break at 11 on a Tuesday, and whoever was free to join could join, and then a formal team meeting on a Wednesday, and again coffee on Thursday. Do you know, that kind of way?
Okay.
Just
So
to
you're
keep it
very
fun.
engaged.
Yeah, well, because I suppose the research would say that it's not a formal. You need to just be there for people to know that you're supporting them and that you're there for them.
Mhm.
So we still do our Monday morning hello, how are you? Because we're still all virtual.
Okay.
And then I just finished my team meeting there earlier. So, and then we're much more conscious about updating our online calendar so people know when you're free. I've made it very clear to all my team that if my tick is green, you can phone me anytime. So people know that it's very open to making calls. As a
That's great.
national organization, EI was very, very aware of I suppose, their obligations to make sure that their staff were in a good place.
Mhm.
And they
Okay.
did a lot to manage that.
That's great to have that much support. And I
It
suppose the
was great.
final question, Maeve, then would be which lessons have you learned that have helped you improve your work-life balance and digital well-being? So if there's something, as a takeaway for people, I suppose both as maybe, in your own role, but also as then a manager. And I know you've answered a little bit of that already in saying, keeping the communication going.
Yeah. So the one thing I noticed, which isn't really directly answering that question, but again, as a national organisation with regional offices and overseas offices, everyone outside the mothership, as we call it, felt that the playing field was completely leveled with the
Okay.
pandemic. So because we're all on screens, it actually didn't matter whether you were at a meeting, in the room, because we would have done conference calls before this.
Yes.
So, the mic is sitting in the middle of the room, and 3 or 4 of us from around the country would be calling and speaking into it. But we couldn't be seen. We didn't really have the technology for that. Well, we probably did have the technology, but we just didn't use it.
Okay.
But now we're all on a screen and it's a complete level playing field. It's amazing, really. So the lessons learned, for me, are to be stricter on my hours, really. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and to maybe try and definitely get some air at lunchtime.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you come in, like I'm in the office now, and sure, I could be here now till 6 o'clock if I don't get up and make some food or walk around the house. And that would never really happen if you're in an office. You're
Mm-hmm.
always getting up to go somewhere or somebody's passing by. So I think you have to be more structured yourself. The other thing that I have learned is you need to make time to have a cup of coffee with somebody, even just for a bit of banter. They're
Mm-hmm.
not on your team. You might have worked with them previously, and maybe it should be more often perhaps, but certainly once a month, I would reach out to somebody I used to work with that I don't see anymore,
Okay.
and just say, have you time for a coffee? Put it in the diary. It's good for them as well because they're meeting somebody that they're not seeing every day on a screen,
Yes.
and just catching up from a personal basis, because again, you would do that in the office.
Yeah. That's a nice one. I like that.
Yeah, so we again would have been encouraged to do that, but you have to work at it and you have to do. Um,
Being
what else?
proactive with it. Yeah.
And yeah, and then just make sure that once a month you do it. Um, as a manager, then I check with my team regularly to make sure they're okay, that they're not feeling overwhelmed. Um, there's probably a tendency to feel that you have to do more because you're working from home.
Mm-hmm.
Like on my team call today, one of them listed out all the meetings she's had in a week, and I had to go into the second page, and I was like, oh my goodness. And the colleague who came after her said, oh my God, I kind of wish I'd gone before you. But anyway, but
Yeah.
she just said, I'm so busy, like have to get to see these people and talk to them. Also, we're probably saving a lot more time because we're not out driving around.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, there are some client meetings that you can only do face to face.
Yes.
So it's getting that balance right and building the relationships face to face so that you can take them online and then be still as productive. You know, what other lessons have I learned? Yeah, so I suppose communication is critical. Minding yourself, so trying to get the walk at lunchtime or get the bit of fresh air. Um, Keeping in touch with people that are not in your group.
Yeah. They're great with tips.
Hmm. And sometimes I go back and look at the yoga and try, because it was desk yoga they were doing. So,
Okay. So you're
so
still sat there.
yeah, and I still try and do it because I actually get very stiff. We're going back on a hybrid model
Okay.
the week after next, 2 days a week
Okay.
in and 3 days a week at home. And that's on a pilot until January.
Okay.
So it's good that it's been piloted with more days at home. The whole organization are really happy with that. We're now trying to figure out what that means. So we have what we call an anchor day.
Okay.
So my team will all be in on a Wednesday in Galway. So I'll be down in Galway every Wednesday and then one other day.
Okay.
So I'll probably do consecutive days. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Wednesday, Thursday, depending who needs me. But the others can play it by ear. And people are really happy with that. I don't think so. Like, I suppose work-life balance is certainly, you'd argue, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely better in one way because you're not on the road traveling late at night and all that. But you do work longer hours. But it's still okay. You're in your kitchen within 5 seconds, so it's or or in your in your walking shoes within 5 seconds to go for your walk. So it's good from that perspective.